Hey everybody, Agent of Doubt here, still the world's worst social justice warrior, worst at it anyway, and I just opened a kombucha without having it fizz over. Gonna master this. Anyways, so you all get my reactions to the Republican National Convention Night 2 now. It's good kombucha. I recommend it. It's from Kroger's. King Soopers in my neck of the woods. It's cranberry apple. Anyways, so the first speaker I saw when I tuned in was a woman named Chris Peterson, who is a Wisconsin dairy farmer. And I noted that they are still, just like the Democratic Party, they are still really, really selling this election to Wisconsin. You know, so I didn't learn much from that speaker, except for that apparently cows need to be milked 3 times a day, and if your farm has some big natural catastrophe happen to it and you need places to put your cows, those places need to be able to milk your cows 3 times a day. So nobody adopt any cows unless you're ready to, you know, milk cows 3 times a day. So yeah, she said that our economy has come roaring back and Trump deserves credit. Well, you know, if parts of it are roaring back, I suppose the buck stopping with Trump, he should get credit for those, and where it's not, he should also get the credit for where it's not coming back, right? Well, you just lost all the people who are restaurateurs if you think that the economy's bounced back and it's roaring, you know, because no, it hasn't for them. There's a lot of different sectors of the economy that have been still affected by the pandemic and Trump's response, his horrible response to it. So yeah, there was a montage of like small businesses and their issues with like stock clips mixed into the mix, you know. And then there was this segment where it was like Larry Kudlow, who I guess used to work for CNBC, but now he's the guy on AM radio, right? Talking about the economy. And one of the things he said was, a rising tide was raising all boats. And I was like, you gotta be shitting me. Because wages have been stagnant for a very, very long time. For a lot of people. You know? Rising. See, when you hear someone say a rising tide was raising all boats, what you should be translating that to in your ears is trickle-down economics. We give the rich people money, you know, we help them make money, and then everybody else is going to make money. Right? It's just a different way to say it, but it's not putting the target on the rich people's backs the way that trickle-down economics did. But it's just another way of saying it, you know, and it works just as poorly. Then he was talking about this has been a V-shaped recovery. Well, kind of V or checkmark shaped for the graph of rich people's feelings that is the stock market. Mostly, you know, if you're looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, mostly due to the 5 tech giants that are doing really well because of the pandemic, you know, like Amazon, Also, McDonald's doing really, really well because people are stuck at home ordering DoorDash, you know, but not very good for the mom and pop shops. There's another one in my neighborhood that's closing that was like a thrift store, and I saw, you know, thrift store closing sign, and I was like, oh man, another one, another business going out of business because of this shit, you know, because we've reacted so poorly. You know, we are leading the world in cases and deaths with the pandemic, so it boggles the mind to think that third world countries do better than we do at controlling this. That's the shit right there. That hurts. I think all of these issues, just set them aside. Trump's gonna lose because of the pandemic, right? And no other issue really matters. People have seen the piss poor leadership, and they're like, you know, let's try something else. That's what it's all going to boil down to, in my mind. We'll see. 2 months out, I could still be wrong. You know, I was wrong about Trump winning the first time. You know, I bought into all the polls, and now this time around, I don't trust polls. But let's see. There was a Wisconsin resident named John Peterson who he was the CEO of Schuett Metals, and again, I was like, wow, both sides are really, really selling to Wisconsin, you know. That's all I really took away from it, was when I saw Wisconsin on the screen. I was like, oh my god, another person from Wisconsin trying to sway other Wisconsin voters. Then they had Sissy Graham Lynch, who is like the granddaughter of the great evangelical Billy Graham, right? And she was talking about the free exercise of religion. And like I've had reactions to other things that have been said in politics of late, yeah, for people who believe in whose gods, because Trump, like, the first thing he wanted to do was put in the Muslim travel ban. You know, I remember it well because Denver International Airport's right around the corner here, you know, and I was upset that I didn't get the first night of footage of all of the protesting that happened inside the airport, where the protesters just went to the airport to protest. Because, like, where do you protest a travel ban, you know? But also, Trump has supported a whole bunch of candidates who believe that Muslims should not hold office, right? It's weird. Like, we even have candidates that believe QAnon conspiracies openly now, you know? So, yeah, free exercise of religion for who? You know, not the atheists. I mean, Trump, on night one, you know, he was trying to say, you know, God's with us, God's on our side, you know. That's what what was that guy? The guy from Cuba was saying. I've seen this before, and Fidel, when he was asked if he was a communist, he said, no, I'm a Roman Catholic. You know, they're pointing at Biden, saying Biden worships the wrong Christian God. You know, free exercise of religion for who? Oh man. But just the the putting of Sissy Graham Lynch on the screen, to me, is like a callback to the homophobia of her grandfather, you know? And it's going to rile up just a few voters on the left who remember how homophobic Billy Graham was. So, let's see. Then there was this guy, Bob, and then his last name started with a V, and it was, like, unpronounceable. Bob from Minnesota. He was a steel worker and a longtime Democrat, and probably in a union. And he was saying, and I'm voting for Donald Trump this time around, you know. And turnabout's fair play, you know. Dems had a whole bunch of people that normally you'd think would vote for Trump, and now the Republicans are pulling out the same tricks. What I wanted to know was, why was this steel worker having his video for this presentation filmed in a courtroom? Because there was a gavel behind him. He was like, obviously, it was like a courtroom. You know, the judge's desk was like right behind him with the gavel, and I was like, what do steel workers have to do with a courtroom? I don't know. Then there was Nicholas Sandmann. He was the kid, and he's a little bit grown up now since it happened, but he was the kid who faced off with a Native American protester at the Lincoln Memorial. This was like a couple years ago. He's a bit taller now, but he still has quite the punchable face. He became like really famous just for like the look that was on his face as he was staring at a Native American protester wearing a MAGA hat. And at the end of his speech, he, you know, said, and oh, by the way, make America great again, and put on his MAGA hat. You know? Not much to say there. I mean, I think the story of Nicholas Sandmann actually was something to note as far as liberal bias in media. And that was the story he was telling in his 15 minutes of fame at the RNC. And, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's a good point. You know, the picture was taken out of context, and you know, the story spread, and he was really maligned by the media because he's just got a really punchable face. You know, he looks like the hatred from MAGA supporters that you would want to punch. You know, and now he's grown up and he still has a punchable face. So I'm not saying I'd punch him. I'm just saying it looks like tab A should go into slot B. Anyways, I'm a little bit more lively than yesterday. You know, same flavor of kombucha though. I'm filming this on the 26th, and on the 28th, Starbucks comes out with their pumpkin spice latte again. So, meet me at Starbucks. Next in the show was Pam Bondi, who was the former Florida Attorney General. And I know that she was in the news for something else. I recognize her name, but I can't really place like why she's, why she's as famous as she is on the national stage. I don't remember what it was that she did that was notable, but I do remember seeing her name a few times in the past. Just don't know where from. Cannot recall. Not as sharp as I used to be, I guess. But she was talking about the links between Biden and his son Hunter to corruption in the Ukraine and also corruption in China. Where basically she was trying to say that Joe Biden has family members, primarily Hunter, but also other family members, who are basically, they're only getting the job offers that they're getting because of the political sway of Joe Biden. And so that is nepotism and corruption, and they are they're beholden to those people that Joe Biden is getting special deals for his family from. And I was like, okay, this is kind of ironic, because as Pam Bondi is speaking, the sidebar says tonight's speakers, and it was like Trump's daughter, Tiffany, Eric Trump, and then Melania Trump. And I'm like, why are they important enough to speak at the Republican National Convention if not for their father? You know, it's just like Trump, Trump, Trump. And, yeah, nepotism. How close is Ivanka and Jared Kushner to their father all the time as like a national advisor to whatever? Jared Kushner's like his go-to for like anything weird. You know, like, I can't figure this out. Jared, you do. He's not free of the charge of nepotism as far as, like, him awarding positions to people in his own family. Just saying. Just saying. But yeah, as she's trying to say that Joe Biden indulges in nepotism, the whole lineup of speakers on the panel beside her says Trump, 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 Trump. And I was like, let me just take a screenshot and tweet this out, because the irony that was dripping off that, it was just so palatable. And I did. You can check my Twitter. I tweeted about it. She also said that Chinese communist bankers support the Bidens, right? That was when they visited Shanghai, I guess, and it's not completely like the bankers that are banking with Americans in Shanghai are all about communism. You know, it's like they've got little bubbles of capitalism to where, like, if their communist country, China, can if it can manipulate the capitalist countries and get, you know, unfair advantages, it will. You know, China, the communist country, is not above using the capitalist markets around it and manipulating them for its own gain, right? Sometimes you have bubbles of capitalism around communism. Sometimes you have bubbles of communism around capitalism. My biggest example of that would be unions. You know, the way that they operate with their pay scales. You know, everybody's pretty much treated equally, versus the rat and scab contractors around them. You know, where people negotiate for their own pay, and you can have somebody making 10 times what another person's making on the same job site. That's a bubble of communism around a bubble of capitalism. And right now, we have Hurricane Laura. Man, 10 years ago, I would be kicking my own ass for not being along the coast ready to do hurricane recovery work, because I made about, like, I think it was $60,000 in 3 months right after Hurricane Ike as a union electrician. I was working like 12-hour days, but that money was good. You know, now Hurricane Laura is going up the same place where I used to live, the Lake Charles area, and man, if I wasn't on another career path, I'd be kicking my own ass right now. Like, God damn it. Like, I didn't get to go to New Jersey after Hurricane Sandy because I had started up my own business, but my union card was still good. I was like, God damn it. The union scale for pay in New Jersey is so good, and I would have been on unemployment for a while with New Jersey unemployment after the jobs were over and they laid me off. God damn it. You know. Maybe some of you don't work that way, though. You know, it's been a while since I've been on unemployment, but I know a lot of people are on unemployment now, and having seen how the union operates with unemployment, I don't hate on anybody, but for having to do what they got to do, you know, just to survive in this world. But anyway, we've gotten off on a tangent. The next speaker, after Pam Bondi kept on saying, Chinese communist, Chinese communist, you know, Bidens are working with Chinese communists, you know, when, I'll just say, of all the Democratic field, Biden would be the last person I would pick to be going full communist. Or even socialist. He was the candidate that shut that shit down. You know, he's the one who, those of us who want some socialist programs, you know, he's the one who won out in the end versus the person who would have had those socialist programs. He's not a communist. He's not. He's basically Republican light. So, yeah. But that's what they want to paint him as, you know. They want to paint Joe Biden as everybody else in the Democratic Party, whereas Joe Biden is actually pretty moderate. The next speaker was Tiffany Trump, and I think the biggest thing that she said that resonated with me was, we're being manipulated by the media and tech giants. And whilst I don't agree with her politics, I agreed with that. You know, and it did speak to me. I'm like, yeah, we got to get outside of our bubbles and look at things for ourselves. And I had actually previously dismissed her as being maybe the black sheep of the family, like Eric. Maybe there's two black sheep, but she's actually a very good speaker, and it reminded me of her brother, Don Jr. the Beard, from the night before. It was scary to me how good of a speaker she was, because, you know, she's probably a better speaker than her father, you know, and some of these Trumps might come back to be a dynasty in politics. And that's, you know, for me, scary thing. Then there was Governor Reynolds of Iowa, and he said that Trump is good at disaster relief because he helped us with the derecho, which was a very recent thing that, like, not many people outside of Iowa know. That, like, man, that big wind just ripped apart farms, and it was bad. I heard about it first from a TikTok post where somebody in Iowa was like, dude, the rest of you need to know, like, a lot of farmland that feeds you just got, you know, demolished by a big wind. Anyways, I don't think this is going to land well with people in Puerto Rico who got hit by a hurricane And then there was horrible disaster relief afterward. In fact, Lake Charles, my old hometown, from when I started my YouTube channel, it's about to get pummeled. And some of my family in Hackberry are about to see a 20-foot wave of water. And they're probably going to be evacuating right about now. Maybe I'll see them come up here in Denver and I'll buy them dinner. But, yeah. I wonder what the disaster relief for that hurricane's going to look like, because the disaster relief phase is going to reflect directly on the president right before the election. You know? This is his Katrina. I mean, he's already lost Puerto Rican votes to, well, his own racism and his horrible job reconstructing Puerto Rico after a hurricane hit them. What's going to happen to his base if he loses Beaumont, Texas, you know, part of Houston, and Lake Charles, Louisiana? I don't know. They love him down there. They do. So hopefully some of them can move back in time to vote. You know, just saying, I wouldn't wish that anyone lost their right to vote because of a hurricane. You know, you got to make a plan and, you know, make sure you get that vote in. Then there was a segment in the show. It was about, like, Mike Pence interviewing regular folk. Didn't really reach me, but I noticed that it wasn't Donald Trump, it was Mike Pence doing it. I don't know how I felt about it. It was kind of just there. Then there was Officer Ryan Hollett, who apparently adopted a baby from a drug addict. Like this woman was like thinking about getting an abortion, and instead she had her baby and gave it to the officer that she met, and yeah, it was, you know, it was a nice story. I don't know how I feel about, like, people in a different sort of authority figure ending up having your baby live with them, but apparently he keeps in touch with the mother, and she's like going on 3 years of sobriety now, and the kids too. So good on her. That means that she started her sobriety while the kid was in the womb. That's awesome. But he said that Trump declared the opioid crisis an emergency and implemented a safer prescribing plan. That's true. Both things are true. Now, was Trump good for the war on drugs, quote unquote, overall? I don't think so. But also, some of the advances during Trump's time in office, as far as, like, doctors being more aware of the opioid crisis and not prescribing to the point of having, you know, a whole bunch more addicts, that would have happened with or without Trump. I don't give him credit for that, but it did happen on his watch. So when Trump was running in 2016, the way I saw it was Hillary Clinton had, you know, I'm going to spend $10 billion to fight the opioid crisis. right? And Donald Trump said, I'm going to be tougher on crime, like drug addicts. And also, I'm going to build a wall. That was all he said about what he was going to do about drugs. Anyways, it was a good segment. I mean, I didn't find any problem with it. Hold on just a second. Just kidding. Just kidding. So then next there was... there was Florida Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunes. And holy shit, she looked like somebody had cocaine eye drops dropped in her eyes because they were like this. Like you could see the whites of her eyes all the way around her eyes. Oh my goodness. I didn't listen to what she was saying. I was just looking at her eyes like, wow, they're googly. Wow, that she had bugged eyes. Is she always that way? I don't know. But she supported Trump. That's what I remember. Then they had a naturalization ceremony where they were giving citizenship to a bunch of people, right? So they had 5 people that they chose, right? From left to right, there was a woman with a hijab. There was a Latina. There was a woman with East Indian garb on. It was like a formal dress from India, right? There was a black man with an accent. And then there was a Bolivian man in a suit. And what I noticed was they were all not melanin impaired. They were all brown. And just looking at it, I was like, they were all selected for the color of their skin. You know, you can't tell me that one out of those 5, if they were being representative of who actually does become an immigrant to this country, you can't tell me that at least one out of those 5 shouldn't have been a white person from a European country, right? They chose the people based on their nation of origin to showcase that Donald Trump is not, quote-unquote, a racist. So, identity politics mattered right then and there to Donald Trump. That's what it said to me. Right? Donald Trump had a little flub in his speech to them. He said that there is no dream beyond your wildest reach. And I was like, I get that wildest dream is a term in English that gets bandied about a lot, but like your wildest reach, yeah, you know, that's what this election is. It's our old guy versus your old guy. Let's put them in a ring and have them fight. You know, can't wait for the debates. It's going to be awesome as far as how many flubs there are. Next, there was Eric Trump. He was not a bad speaker for all of the jokes thrown his way by, late-night talk shows where they say that he's the black sheep of the family and that he's, retarded. Like the SNL skits make him out to be. That he's thirsty for his father's love, and his father doesn't love him. He's kind of cast aside from the rest of the family. That's what they make him out to be in jokes, but in practice, as a speaker, it was like, I disagreed with him a little bit more than I did Tiffany Trump, but I was expecting an idiot, and he was well spoken. He said that Biden is a career politician who's done nothing in like 47 years and never signed the front of a check. And I was like, oh, that's him making an allusion to the fact that Trump was, holding up the stimulus checks so that he could get his signature on them. The $1,200 checks that went out. He's the one who signed those checks. It's his choice that you got your $1,200. That's what that was an allusion to. But like, I'm pretty sure Biden signed a check before, But what he's trying to get at was that like Biden's never run a successful business where, other people's livelihoods were in his hands. And I suppose Donald Trump has had people work for him where their livelihood did depend on the Trump brand, sticking around. So I would say that Biden made a pretty good case that he did do some things in his 47 years. The Violence Against Women Act is the first thing on the tip of my tongue because it was in the DNC that they showcased it. But, he did a lot of stuff. Not all that I agree with, but it's not like he was just sitting there doing nothing. They also said that Biden has pledged to defund the police, which, I wish. They're making Biden out to be like all of the rest of the Democratic Party, where Biden won't be as bold as to say we should defund the police. He won't. Maybe some of his supporters wish he would be that bold, but no, he's not that guy. Bernie Sanders would have been that guy. Anyways, Eric ended his speech with, "To my father, I miss working alongside you every day." And I was like, oh my gosh. He's just feeding that stereotype of the parody of him where he's basically thirsty for his dad's love. Oh my goodness. The end of his speech was, having seen the SNL skits about him, it was hilarious. Next, there was Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And what I got from him was China virus. China's fault. It came from China. Basically deflecting and taking the blame away from Donald Trump for inaction in his response to the virus and blaming it on the Chinese for not telling us quick enough. Even though after they did, we had 3 months of pretty much wait and see instead of react before it gets too bad, and look what happened. He also talked about North Korea, which it's a scary thing. We used to have Dennis Rodman as like our greatest ambassador to North Korea, and to see the language of love being used towards North Korea in everything that we do, it's just, we're basically complicit in the way that North Korea is able to keep the authoritarian stranglehold on its people that it does because of Trump. Then Mike Pompeo said that they killed Soleimani in a strike, and soldiers were on their way home, and that we moved our embassy to Jerusalem. And that's the dog whistle to evangelicals right there, because it's the Holy Land, right? That whole thing. But the whole killed Soleimani thing, I think, is kind of like Obama saying, you know, well, who killed Osama bin Laden? You know? And as far as soldiers being on their way home, we've got like more soldiers deployed now than we've ever had in history. As far as you know, all around the world is where they're stationed. You know, they might not be deployed in a wartime effort, but we've got more soldiers all around the world than like we've ever had. Numbers out of my ass, but seriously, soldiers are on their way home. He almost started a war with Iran right before the pandemic hit us. You know, by that strike. You know, if it weren't for coronavirus, we could have had World War III. And Iran could have been a glass parking lot right now. Trump would have dropped a nuke just so that he could have been the president that did. Anyways, next was Melania. She was the last speaker that I saw. And she was speaking from the Rose Garden, where she had Jackie Kennedy's trees removed. And, you know, they were historic trees. But she said she did it so that it would be ADA compliant with, like, lighting and, like, a walkway. And when I saw where they were having the speech, I thought to myself, why was it that I know these things about Jackie Kennedy's trees being removed? Now, I know that DevShell brought it up in a Breakfast Club show where I was in that discussion. But before that, I'd also been presented this news, and you know, the outrage over how dare you erase, you know, Jackie O's trees from history by, you know, uprooting them and just throwing them in the trash, and then, you know, how dare you transform the White House to look the way that you want it to look like that, you know? Those were historic trees. You're no Jackie O. You're no Michelle, you know. Apparently, Michelle's garden is now being paid for by some sunflower seed company. So that's still there. But it's being paid for by some outside company, not by the government. But why do I know these things? Just like Tiffany Trump was saying, we're being manipulated by the media. So my mind was primed to see that those trees were removed right next to where she was speaking. Like, the trees were missing. You know? My mind was primed to hate her in that moment. You know? So I tried to listen. I also saw that the crowd was not really social distanced because, you know, the seats should have been like 6 feet apart. But if you looked at them, they could just touch the next person. You know, and we don't have 6-foot arm spans. You know, you don't have a 6-foot reach. Nobody does. One, you know, with just one arm. But each of them could have tapped the person next to them. So they weren't social distanced, and maybe 10% of them were wearing masks in the crowd. So it wasn't zero, but it was not even 10%, right? She talked about her campaign, Be Best, which as far as campaigns go, is kind of just a nothing burger compared to Michelle Obama getting people to exercise. It felt like the project that they just have the First Lady working on, just to have her work on something. You know, just... And that she has a campaign against cyberbullying, and her husband has that Twitter account where he does cyberbullying all the time and gives people nicknames all the time to bully them on social media. It's just, ugh. It lacks self-awareness, okay? Anyways, she talked about Be Best. And she was kind of selling herself and her own family story. And I got the feeling, because the camera went to Trump a couple times, I was like, is he thinking, when are you going to talk about me? I don't know. She was talking about her, like, selling herself, like, you vote for Trump, you get her as the First Lady, right? She said she's reflected on the racial inequality in our country, which I was like, that sounds it sounds like they're reaching a little far as trying to reach those voters who really care about racial inequality, you know. But at the end of her speech, she said that I call for an end to the looting and rioting and more reflection on our mistakes, which is a little bit tone deaf if you're going to try to reach those voters who care about racial inequality, because that's the way that they are expressing themselves, because they tried peaceful ways and it didn't work. You know, they feel that's the only way that they can be heard, you know, get their story on the news. And I felt like she was directly addressing Kenosha, Wisconsin in the moment, but probably it was pre-taped, so maybe not. But I felt like she was. And this whole video is about my reactions. She said that Trump supported historically black colleges and universities, and HBCUs is kind of a buzzword that the DNC used 3 or 4 times, so, you know, they're using a lot of the DNC's tricks as far as, you know, what to talk about, what creates buzz in people's ears. She said that they worked on the opioid crisis. She worked with Trump on that, which I don't know how true that is. Seriously, I'm an addiction counselor. I'm like, I don't see it. Apparently, a couple billion will be spent on it, but you know, Clinton's campaign promise was $10 billion while she was running, and I just don't see it. Definitely in practice, when you're tougher on crime and you're more concerned about immigration and border walls and whatnot, you're hurting the issue a little bit, because I'll just say, as an addiction counselor, it's a little bit harder for me to help someone rebuild their life when they have the stigma of a felony attached to them. You know, it makes their life a little bit more hopeless, because they won't be able to get the jobs that they would want to get if they were to right their lives. So they fall back into that life of crime because they've been condemned to it, because they can serve out their prison sentence, but that felony sticks to them forever, right? And also it makes you ineligible for certain student loans if you have been convicted of having certain drugs like meth. So You know, it does not help me when they are tougher on the crime of drug possession, drug dealing, and just drugs overall. Does not help me in my job. Melania also said that suicides are on the rise, and I thought that that was great for her to bring up. And it was, for me, the highlight of her speech, that she brought that up. And it's true. And can't say much about it, but, you know, I've lost people to this pandemic professionally. You know, where I've known of people who have basically been isolated and drugs got to them. So, anyways, her speech was mostly, you know, it was there. I didn't really get much passion out of it. But I look forward to night 3 and getting a little bit more outraged. I know that some of my friends were outraged by Nick Sandman, the punchable face kid. That was pretty much the highlight for them. Was like, oh my god, I can't believe that they put him on the show. You know, but that's all I got. See you guys after night 3 tonight.